Hello and welcome along to the Champion Sports Chat podcast for this week. Coming up on this week's show, we'll be hearing from David McCarthy of Clare Soccer, Brian Coffey, the Clare minor hurling manager, and indeed finishing up with athletics with Ennis Track's Rory Chesser. It's soccer where we start first though, where the FAI this week announced that August 28th is a possible resumption date post the COVID-19 restrictions for the local soccer leagues to start up again. And no official clarification yet from the Clare Soccer League as to what the plan is. We understand there's consultation underway with the clubs and hoping to have possible clarity for everybody, I guess, in the coming weeks. One of those that we spoke to about that was Newmarket Celtic and Clare star David McCarthy. He gave his thoughts on all that's going on.
Yeah, they're very strange indeed. On the plus side, we've got a very supportive family. I have a very supportive family, and everybody's been able to maintain their health and keep as positive as possible during these tough times. So having two young kids, that keeps me active, keeps us busy. Every Saturday we do something, whether it's a physical activity or whether it's we do a bit of art or a bit of baking at home, but something just to keep the mind ticking over and trying to keep as positive as we can, because like most people these days, we don't know how long this is going to go on for. So yeah, trying our best to keep positive.
Yeah, I guess that's important, isn't it? Trying to find something to fill the days, because if you hadn't that, it would be quite a long time from when you get up until you go back to bed again.
Yeah, for sure, Derek. I mean, we've been looking at different things online. We've been following kind of home workouts, a little bit of Joe Wicks and the body coach, doing a bit of activity in the living room with the kids, to following art pages, trying to come up with different art and different baking techniques and getting out for walks within the social distance and the 2 kilometre radius. Now it's going to be lifted, to about 5k, but we have a loop around where we live, so keeps within 2k. But yeah, I can imagine if you weren't doing something like that, you would definitely be struggling mentally, as well as physically, as the loss of sport, individual sport, team sports for people has been huge, and without kind of replacing that in some way, it would be a huge strain on people.
Has it affected you much in a professional sense?
It has really, I suppose, in the sense that, I was working in LIT there as a project access worker, and I have not been able to, meet students, or not been able to, physically have face-to-face contact with people who are in the first year and who are getting assignments that I would generally have met, has been a difficult one. So it's kind of strange times really, that everyone's kind of coming up with new ideas to try and make this work as best as possible.
I guess that's the other side as well, that maybe that there's a section of people that maybe will quite struggle with this, maybe won't have the same supports that others might, and just might find it a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if people don't have that kind of support from home, or if they don't have people that they can call on or rely on, it's definitely going to struggle, somewhat. It's definitely a case of looking out for your friends and your family and your community members at this time, if at all possible, to try and offer that support. I know in our area there's a number of elderly people, and the local priest, Father Jervis Fitzgerald, and a couple of local volunteers have done very good work in securing kind of hot meals and meals on wheels sort of support to the elderly in the community. And I know a couple of different businesses here in the town have got on board with supplying the food, and I think Frank Landy's and Sweet and Green Cafe in town has helped with making that, and then everyone's kind of pulling together in somewhat. But definitely for people who maybe from a different country coming over and have no family support, or people from the community who are kind of isolated, definitely a challenging time.
Yeah, the job, it sounds like an interesting one.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a bit of a struggle really, and like working from home has been tough, and it's not something that we've been used to doing, and like I think it's like unprecedented times for everybody, and not being able to know when we can go back or how we can get out to meet people face to face has been proven a difficult one. Now Zoom, and you can video call and I suppose phone call people and email to keep in contact, but I don't think anything beats human contact and face to face, and just getting out to meet people for a chat, because that's very important in in life in general, you know, for everything, and especially with, you know, people who mightn't have that support from home, you know.
Okay. On the sporting sense then, are you missing the normality of the Sunday mornings?
Yeah, that's the biggest challenge for me there. I'm not going to lie to you. I love being around, you know, team sport. I love the buzz of, you know, pre-game, you know, build up even from a Friday evening, thinking about the match, you know, who we're playing, you know, what's required from us, having the build up from previous Sunday, you know, after the game is finished, with recovery, thinking about training Tuesday night, Friday night, you know, who's coming up. And around this time of the year, particularly in the last number of years for Newmarket, we've had, you know, big kind of cup, semi-finals, quarter-finals, finals, and, you know, all those things. And it's definitely been a big challenge not having it. I haven't met any of the lads in probably close on 8 weeks now, really. We've, you know, touched base with a few of them over, you know, WhatsApp and a few phone calls and that. But again, similar struggles for everybody else, just not being able to get that face-to-face contact, or that contact in the sport is difficult. And then having to readapt your training plan. So most lads, I think, are doing a little bit from, you know, from home, but it's just not the same, really. You try your best to keep as active as you can, but I suppose nothing beats that competitive or that team morale when everyone's together putting it in, you know.
Yeah, and again, like nearly in all codes, there is that sense of uncertainty, isn't there? I think everybody's waiting on the FAI to kind of make a call on what and when the various levels of soccer in Ireland can kind of start back again.
Yeah, exactly. So we're kind of in limbo, really. We're like everybody else. We're just waiting by the phone, waiting for these updates, you know, from the chief medical officer and the, you know, the government in Ireland to make the decision, and before the governing bodies for the FAI, be it, you know, the FAI or the GA or rugby, or, you know, everyone's kind of in limbo, wondering when it might be possible to go back. Just on a professional level, I know the German league is going back tomorrow, on Saturday. So I suppose that gives people a bit of a lift if you can go back there, and let's see how it works over there, you know, and maybe just maybe the season can be, you know, saved. I know in terms of the GA, it hasn't kicked off really. A little bit of the National League, but the real kind of champion stuff hadn't started. But in terms of the local soccer, we were probably just over, maybe halfway, probably closer to the 3/4 way through. So we're unsure whether this season will be finished, if it does go back, or if it gets too late, will this season be scrapped and, you know, look to start again, be it September, whenever the restrictions are really lifted. And just really in limbo, not knowing what to do really, or what's going to happen in that sense is it's kind of the big question on everyone's mind. Will it or won't it, you know?
What would the preference be from your own point of view? Finish the season or scrap it?
Personally, Derek, I'd prefer, unless it was 100% safe to go back, I'd prefer to scrap it, really. Mainly down to having family members with, you know, overriding kind of health illnesses. So I don't want to be in a position where I'm not forced, I suppose is the wrong word, but to go out and play an amateur sport and risk picking up COVID and bringing it back to, you know, to elderly family members or someone like that. So unless the guideline comes and it's definitely safe to go back, then unfortunately I'll have to say scrap it. Although we're not getting any younger, you know, we're in a good position to win, you know, a domestic, you know, league again, but overall it has to be the, you know, health and safety of the people of Ireland. So yeah, probably leaning towards scrapping it if it can be done in a safest manner as possible.
Yeah, I guess it's a shame in a local sense, because like the league was bubbling nicely with yourselves in Avenue there, you know, probably going to fight it right down to the wire, and I know we were going to have the 6-minute classic and all that, you know, there was all those storylines around it. You know, it was set up for a cracking finish, wasn't it?
For sure. I think this year, probably more so than maybe in previous years, I think Avenue are well equipped in making a real good push of it, and ourselves, we'd been tipping along. You know, we kind of just recovered. We'd had a poor season by our standards in terms of, you know, provincially or nationally. You know, we went out of 3 competitions to scorelines of 1-0, and I know this is kind of cliche, but like realistically, in all 3 games, we hit the bar a couple of times. We didn't take our chances, and sometimes these kind of seasons happen, you know. And with the new management coming in, I feel a bit sorry for them, because to be fair, they've done really well. We just haven't got the results that that's been required. But back on a local stage, definitely Avenue have been going really well, and I've never been in a situation where we're going to have to go back and play 6 minutes, to finish 6 minutes and play it in 2 equal halves. So we lead 2-1 in that game, and it was set up. I suppose Avenue could throw the kitchen sink for 6 minutes, really, couldn't they? And if they were to make a goal, or who knows, even 2 goals, whatever, that would really open the league up. I think if we were to hold out that 6 minutes and maybe win our game in hand, I think the gap could have been 5 points. With 7 games to go, and we still have to go to Ennis. So the league definitely was set up for a cracking run this year, and look, hopefully it can get back to that, and we may see a good showdown, but I suppose we just have to play it by ear and wait and see if that's the case.
Yeah, I just guess finally, I see a lot of high profile guys like Colin Ryan even in the hurling just saying for everybody to just hold the horses a bit, let the experts make the decisions on this and see what their guidance on it is.
Yeah, I mean that would definitely be my overriding kind of preference as well. I wouldn't like to make the decision on pulling the plug or just going ahead with it. I'd let the experts make the decision. But if there's no rush in return, like in the sense of hold off another few weeks, maybe this thing might clear up a bit quicker than expected, or we might be in a position in 4 weeks' time to that we can go back to maybe getting on the field and playing sport. Like, it's very, very important for the people of Ireland. It's very important for sports people who play the game, but also for family members, spectators who want to get out and have somewhere to go and cheer their local team on, or their county team on, or even in a sporting sense their national team. I had planned on, I was all booked in for Slovakia for the Ireland qualifier, and obviously that fell by the wayside as well, just during COVID. But sport in general gives people a big lift, so whether that be a spectator or as a player or as a mother or father of a son or daughter, playing, the real excitement of game time is being missed, really. And like, at what point does it become more of a detriment to people's mental health and physical health? So like, a decision will have to be made sooner rather than later, I'd imagine, in kind of GA terms, especially time wise. And soccer the same, I'd imagine.
That is David McCarthy there. Well, this week, of course, should have been the week that we spoke about Brian Lohan prowling the Simple Stadium sideline, facing down Liam Sheedy and the All-Ireland champions as he made his championship bow as Clare's senior hurling manager, not to be, of course, under the current circumstances. However, before that, we should also have been in Thurles as another man made his championship debut as manager. That is, of course, the new Clare minor hurling manager, Brian Coffey. This week saw the Clare minor squad, the current Clare minor squad that is, lending their support to last year's captain Cian Galvins and his drive to raise funds for CF as he talks about passing the sliotar and not the virus. We spoke to Brian about that and indeed about the last couple of weeks.
Yes, we expected to be in the thick of action around now. Unfortunately hasn't worked out that way, but obviously there's a major situation at the moment, and people are taking the right steps and being cautious. So look, we're like everyone else, and we're just waiting to see how things develop over the next number of months, and we'll see if there's going to be any hurling this later on this year.
Yeah, how would you find the first couple of months in the job before all this started?
I was really enjoying it. There's a great bunch of players. Obviously, we've been with them since they were 13 years of age. So I knew, I know the players, I know the talent they have, I know the character and the team, and and I know a lot of the management team would have been with me up through the development squads, and then we brought in obviously some new personnel to the management team to bring in new knowledge and experience. And I think everyone has gelled well, and we're working well together, and things were going in the right direction, I think.
Yeah, would you have had many of those lads from the Flannans Hartley team?
Oh, we do, yeah, and that was something we had to manage with the Flannans management team, because you had a number of the starters, and a lot of the Flannans, quite a number of the Flannans panel would have been with us. So what we decided to do really with the Flannans players was let them focus on under school hurling. Kind of felt that it was the time of year really to focus on school hurling rather than inter-county. So we kind of let them focus on that, and it was just great to see both Tulla and Flannans do well this year.
Absolutely, and I guess there's a real sense dawning now, I suppose, that Ireland journey can't be finished out for St. Flannan's, but a Harty Cup, I'd imagine, was probably their main goal anyway, and what a thing to have for a Clare underage hurler.
Oh, sure, it's fantastic. I know from talking to Brendan Bulger in the past, that was certainly one of the goals, was to win a Harty probably after a number of years. It's great for the school. It's great for the lads, and it's great for the county too. To see the school do well.
I've always wondered as well about that dynamic of sticking, having that knowledge of the group you have now since they were 12 and 13, and I suppose knowing what makes them tick, and on a basic sense as well, I guess, knowing the parents as well, and the support structure that's there for them, because we hear so often young lads thanking their mothers and fathers for driving them here, there and everywhere for training, so I guess that relationship is just as important, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The parents, is a massive commitment there on their behalf. The lads are who they are because of the parents first and foremost, in their clubs and schools, and we're lucky just to work with them to polish the diamond maybe in some respects. I think we've a very good relationship built up with the parents over the years. I think there's good feedback, I think, in terms of what we've been doing with them. We've also been trying to continue to keep touch with them over the last number of weeks, and I think that's been appreciated as well.
Yeah, you mentioned character there, and it was interesting that it was Cian Galvins started off all this, the social media fundraising that they're doing for CF. And I know your guys now have taken it up as well. I think it's savagely heartwarming to see young fellas getting involved in stuff like this at such an early age.
Oh well, look, I spoke to Cian. He's a fine young man. He's obviously a fantastic hurler, great talent and future prospect. But what's most impressive about him is his maturity and his attitude, and the fact that he started this off is phenomenal, really. At his age, and it just shows the kind of guy he is, and we're just delighted to help out in any way we can, because there's obviously loads of good causes out there at the moment, and it's great to see the GA as an organisation get behind so many of those causes.
Absolutely, yeah, and I guess and these young fellas did obviously all know each other, so there's a great kind of sense of helping each other out there as well with this whole scheme.
Absolutely, and not just the Flannan's players. Cian is kind of held in, I think, respect across Clare and Clare underage hurling, and Clare is relatively small, perhaps, from that perspective. So everyone knows Cian, everyone knows what he's like, and everyone's delighted to support him.
What is your thoughts about what lies ahead?
Oh God, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's a really difficult situation, and I'm certainly not an expert, but we obviously try to follow what's happening in the media and so on. And I think the government and the HSE and have been doing a very good job in terms of managing what is a very difficult situation. I think at the moment there's still a lot of uncertainty, which is concerning people. So I think it's probably prudent to take a cautious approach until there's more known about this virus, and in particular around whether it's a potential second wave is likely to occur. So I think the GA has been sensible in terms of looking at what other sports are doing, listening to the experts, and just kind of waiting and seeing to see how things develop.
Yeah, I suppose at underage level it's probably a tricky one, isn't it? Because you have 17-year-olds this year that if it stays at 17 won't be able to hurl next year, and they'll have effectively missed out on their last year. I know there's something of a push there to maybe bring it back to 18 for next year to kind of catch that cohort again, but as you said, at the moment it's quite hard to know what to do.
It is now. It wouldn't be the worst thing, obviously, if they brought minor up. Obviously, it would give the lads the opportunity to play minor, which would be fantastic. I'd hate to think that they wouldn't get the opportunity to play minor. I kind of feel as well for the under-20s, because I think they were the group that missed out on minor. So hopefully there's some solution found, and there is an under-20 championship run at some stage as well.
That's Clare minor hurling manager Brian Coffey there. Finishing up the show this week with athletics, where last Monday Athletics Ireland saying that it was now okay for groups of 4 under social distancing guidelines to gather for the purpose of a training session or a training run. We decided to speak to one of Clare's most prominent athletes in the form of Rory Chesser, just to get his thoughts from the Ennis Track man about all that's going on and how it's affecting everything from athletics to family life.
The whole thing of keeping away from people and you're almost it's like something out of a movie. You're avoiding people and you're standing back from people in shops and things like that. It's been very strange, and in my job and everything else, it's been very odd having no school and having to try and balance how much work to give kids and at the same time being understanding of the parents that it's going to be very difficult to get a lot of work done, or even the same or anything near as close to the amount of work we may do in a school day. Knowing myself, I have a small lad, he's only 3, but it's just things are kind of turned completely upside down at the minute. But hopefully now we're starting to come out of it bit by bit.
Okay, where are you teaching?
In the grade school in Ennis.
Okay. Very different environment, obviously, then.
Yeah, very different. Yeah, we're sending work home virtually or by email, and they're keeping in touch with us, and the parents have been brilliant. Like they're very supportive, and like I say, I can only imagine how difficult it is to try and get everything done, or to get some sort of normality with everything that's going on. With people losing jobs and everything else, it's crazy. Like,
I imagine it's like the kind of thing that when, I suppose, even for teachers and students, when you hear, we're doing our work online, there's maybe an initial kind of maybe newness to the whole thing, or a novelty to it, but I guess that doesn't be long wearing off either, because you can't replace being with people as opposed to a screen.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it's being around people, and as a teacher, I be sociable, and the kids are. The postman said to me the other day, he said it's unnatural that the kids can't play together or be together, and all they want to do is be around their friends, and they can't. And and even with their grandparents and things like that, it's just everything has been turned upside down. And hopefully it'll get back some normality, but it might never be completely the same again. It's still hard to believe it, however many weeks in, 8 or 9 weeks in.
Absolutely. How has it affected you from an athletics point of view?
Well, I'm running by myself mainly. I'm just going from my house and running away. Training, running by myself, it hasn't changed that much. Because we're lucky we can get out. We can, and we're allowed 5 kilometres radius from our house. So, like, I'm talking to my friends in Spain and places like that, and they've had a really strict lockdown with it. They weren't allowed out of the house until last week, so we're lucky that way. It's just the thing of not having a race on the horizon. In some ways, is tough, but in other ways, there's more important things going on. That kind of the last 2 weeks, you'd see things in perspective. Like there's more important things in the world. Like taking care of your family and friends first, and then everything else will come back into place.
Yeah, and I guess it would have always been kind of an individual element to your training anyway, so I suppose in that sense it probably wasn't a new phenomenon for you.
No. I do a good bit of the training by myself anyway. But like I say, this time of year you'd be building up for track races, and it's just a completely different feeling. You're kind of going back into winter training almost.
I mean, have Ennis Track, have you held any like Zoom meetings or anything like that, or how has that been working?
Yeah, we've been doing sort of yoga and strength and conditioning 3 times a week. The lads have organised it, mainly the younger lads, which is great. Liam Naughton and Donald Levan have been kind of organising it. We all just do it together, and it's kept us together in a way, and it's nice to be able to do things with other people. Like you say, it's an individual sport, but the other things like the yoga or stretching is much harder to do by yourself. So we get to talk to each other and have a bit of crack as well. So that's been one good thing to come out of it, like that we're getting together that way.
Yeah, and I suppose we've seen the likes of Lee Vale and these clubs saying that even when they go back training that their facilities will be still unavailable to them. Do we know what the situation will be for Ennis Track if he gets to go back in groups of the 4?
I think it's going to be very hard to. The Athletics Ireland have released kind of an in-depth strategy of how to return, but it's going to be very hard for the club to sort of be the guards of all this or the police of all this, because they've put up things like logging into an online app to say you're going training, and they're in the coaching section. They're saying the coach should record all people who are at training, which is easy enough to do. But then the coach is expected to record all training. There'll be no toilet facilities available. Hand sanitizer will have to be available. So things like this, it's not really doable. Like, I don't think, like, it's the people who are coaching in our club are voluntary, and it's kind of a lot of responsibility to be putting on them. So I'd say come Monday there'll be more informal groups of 2, 3, 4 meeting up for a run or meeting up for a session, and that's much easier for us to do as adults, but it's going to be tough for the kids to do it. So I'm not sure how that's going to be, how they're going to go ahead with that. I was just looking at the phases, like they're hoping to be back running competitions in August, and that's the last phase where you're allowed to leave your region in terms of travel and everything else, and that's if all the phases go in order and according to plan. So it's just kind of phase 1. I'd say mainly people will be meeting in informal groups, and just instead of running by ourselves, we'll have 1 or 2 others to run with, and we'll have a bit of company. That's something to look forward to. Like I was reading an article with Ian O'Riordan, and Kingston Mills was talking. He's been on a lot of the shows. He's a professor in immunology, and he was basically saying that runners in 1s or 2s or 3s, they present very little danger to the public, because for the amount of time that you'd be passing someone in the park or out when people are walking and cycling, etc., that this 2 meters rule is just a generic thing for the population to take up, and it's good in a way, because everybody's singing from the same hymn sheet, and that we know what we're expected to do, whereas if you look at England and other places, they don't seem to be given clear guidelines. But he was saying that the transition of the disease is more by coughing and sneezing, and more in a sort of confined space. So we're lucky in that running, you're outside and you're out in the open air, whereas the likes of rugby, etc., I don't see how they're going to get back in August if they're saying you can play rugby. You could be in a scrum or a boxing match. You'd be in ties close to each other, but they're saying that social distancing has to be maintained by the people that are watching it. So it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. But from a running perspective, I think we'll just have to meet up in smaller groups, and the adults can take, the likes of me and my friends can take the responsibility on ourselves and not involve a volunteer coach who's, they love the sport, but it's not fair to put them under pressure or make them responsible for anyone who may or may not contract the virus.
Yeah, I guess then for a return to a competitive point of view, I mean, outdoor again, probably easier to police without actually being easy, I suppose. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, easier than other sports, because you're not as confined with as many people. You might be sitting on the shoulder of 1 or 2 people, for a short period of the race, or for not a very long period of time. But I can't see the likes of Dublin Marathon going ahead for mass participation, because people are going to be standing together for a long time waiting to go, or they could be sitting in a bus being transported to the start line. I'd say the lower key races may hopefully go ahead before the end of the year, but again, I was thinking about this, it's the person who's organising the race is going to be under severe pressure to make sure social distancing is implemented, and again, it's going to be an awful pressure on that person or persons and the guilt or whatever that may come out of it if someone was to get sick. So it's going to be very tricky, and it's I'd be slow myself to participate in the race until I was certain that there was that it was safe, to be honest. And if they keep the numbers low of people who are competing, then you'd hope with the numbers coming down gradually in terms of new cases, you'd hope that it would be safe. But I'd be very slow to go travelling up to a national competition with a few hundred in it, for example. We'll just have to see how it pans out.
Yeah, could you be looking at a way of maybe restructuring how it works, in that you'd have qualifying events maybe with lesser numbers to qualify for the ultimate national competitions, that you'd get back to it that way?
Yeah, that could be one way of doing it. You with marathons and road races, you could run them in waves as you do in triathlon and cycling. So you could have smaller groups, maybe just give a figure of maybe 8 to 10 per group, and they could run off together. And the majority of the time in a race, things get separated fairly quick anyway. On the track, things like certain field events, sprints, they could run with one person in every other lane in a sprint, for example. And in a field event, they could maintain a distance between each other by sitting apart. So certain events, I could possibly see them going ahead this year. But in terms of people looking to qualify for Olympics, etc., they've kind of closed the qualification period until later on this year, because they know it's going to be incredibly difficult for people to get races and events to compete in. So it's just going to be hard to organise the whole thing, and I don't envy anyone who's trying to organise a race. It's going to be incredibly difficult. But again, the most important thing is if we're going through the phases one after the other consecutively, then you can see the possibility of it. But if, for example, we go to phase 1 on Monday and then Tony Holland says and the government say no, look at the numbers have multiplied within, then things are going to be very difficult. Things like sport and entertainment is going to be very hard to prioritise. There's the most important thing is all of our health and well-being. So that's the bottom line.
Absolutely. Just finally, I'd imagine that Ennis Track possibly preparing themselves to get a lot of new members. I'd say the roads have never been busier with lads out walking and running.
Oh yeah. That's one massive positive of this. There's so many people walking and running and cycling. Yeah, I hope they stick at it, and if they want to join the club, Ennis Track, we would embrace them with open arms.
Ennis Track's Rory Chesser there, finishing up this week's Champion Sports Chat podcast. That's all we have time for on this week's show. Do tune in again next week. Until then, do stay safe. If you can at all, do stay at home, and we'll